Welcome back to the road to City Hall. This week, Mayor Bloomberg has been at the forefront of the push for more gun control, meeting with Vice President Joe Biden and putting his money behind a winning congressional primary candidate in Illinois. But my next guest has been fighting tougher gun laws for nearly 20 years. This came after her teenage son was gunned down on the Brooklyn Bridge. The shooting death of Ari Halberstam was a terrorist attack that rocked the city back in 1994, and tomorrow will mark 19 years since that incident happened. Joining me here in the studio to talk about her memories as well as her current efforts to curb gun violence, we've got Devorah Halberstam. Thank you for joining us. I was reading about, I hadn't, sort of seen everything, but I looked on your website that you have, and Ari just seemed like such a great kid.
He was. He was just a typical teenager, all-American boy. He was just fabulous.
Big, tall kid, played basketball and everything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wore a size 13.5 sneaker.
Wow.
And he was, for a Jewish boy, a religious, Orthodox Jewish boy, it's unusual for them to play basketball. But he was 6 feet tall at the age of 16, and he was just great on the court. And he loved it.
And I know it's not, even remotely sort of real compensation, but I went and looked on the website, and Rashid Baz, who murdered your son, who committed the attack with a submachine gun fired on a van of innocent kids, is in Attica prison. It says that his parole date is Christmas Day in the year 2139. So we're not going to be hearing from him anytime soon. Well,
he got 25 years to life for my son's murder. But then he had attempted murder charges on each and every boy in the van, and there were 15 of them in total. So that added up to 141 and 2/3 years.
It is, of course, a personal nightmare, but it was also sort of part of a political nightmare that was going on. There had been, you don't know what really is going through people's minds, but there had been a horrible terrorist attack, in the Middle East, and Rashid Baz let it be known that this was somehow connected to it.
Retaliation.
It seems like such a different era. Is the world different now, do you think?
I think it's a lot of the same is going on. Back in '94, we weren't looking at terrorism on the radar screen. We've moved, fast forward, we've done a lot of work on that front. Unfortunately, we see a lot of operatives, not only in the middle, but there are cells popping up all over the world. So it has not gone away, unfortunately. And of course, there are the students of Al-Qaeda, et cetera, et cetera. Besides which, there's always that person out there who feels like he wants to show what he can do. So terrorism is something that is definitely here, and I don't think it's going to go anytime soon.
Like many other people, I see the signs on the ramp to the Brooklyn Bridge that are named after your son. I know you put a lot of effort into that. Mayor Giuliani made that happen. I also, though, think about, and you and I are neighbors in Crown Heights, I've eaten in the deli at the Jewish Children's Museum, which is actually pretty good food, awfully good food, a nice meeting spot. And that, too, is sort of a tribute to your son.
Well, it's dedicated to his memory, the museum, yes. Very, very proud of it. And I believe that Ari lives on through the museum, because we've had over 1 million children walk through. It's the place to educate them about Ari lived and died for what he was as a Jewish person. And that's why Rashid Baz murdered him. He was looking for Jews, and those boys were Jews, identifiable as Jews. He said in his video confession, when he saw the boys, he saw Israeli soldiers, and he went up and shot it up. So having said that, I felt that the museum is a lasting tribute, and it is his legacy, but it's a living legacy. I honestly, to me, it's like when I go there, I believe my son's spirit lives on in the museum.
And one other part of his legacy is his name is on a piece of gun control legislation, which I actually did not know.
Yes, Ari's law.
Yes,
Ari's law, which is an interstate gun trafficking law, very significant. Back in the day, we were actually, the Brooklyn Bridge shooting, and me and another student, there was something called a body of lawyers that were lawyers against gun violence. It was Richard Davis, Awal Gotcha-Lamangis, and it was Tom Barr, who's since passed on, of Cravath, Swain and Moore, and they took on to fight the gun dealers, and they sued 7 gun companies in. It was the first case that ever went to trial in the history of American jurisprudence. We did lose, but we did bring the gun to the forefront, the gun issue.
Yes.
And subsequent to that, we had, together with, introduced by Shelley Silver, and then signed by Governor Pataki. And you know, it's very difficult. They were both Republican and Democrats, but that was the one issue that they were both, it was probably one of the first pieces of gun legislation that was a strong, and it was interstate gun trafficking because Rashid Baz was an illegal alien. He was a Lebanese national. He had been, right then, he was in the middle of being investigated in a Middle East drug ring. And the guns he used and his arsenal of weapons were a Cobra, which is a Cobra is a Uzi type machine gun, set on automatic that he used to murder my son. He also had with him a street sweeper, which is a 12-gauge shotgun that is also an assault weapons, and he had with him a Glock pistol, and he had a .380. So this man was fully loaded, and he bought them all in the streets of New York City.
Do you see gun control in the current debate as something that you're going to continue to be involved in?
Well, I've been watching it very, very closely, and to the point where I probably know everybody's opinion on it. And, you know, some of it I speak out loud to myself as I hear people speaking about it. I know, unfortunately, the Newtown shooting has brought it very much to the forefront, because who could bear an assault on a child? Having said that, I would say I think Mayor Bloomberg is a visionary, and everything that he's speaking to is like, if anybody can get it done, I feel like he can get it done. And you know, I trust City Hall, but I know a major problem sits in Congress. And maybe the fear of NRA, I'm not so certain, but we need to do it, if we need to do it, one senator at a time, one congressman at a time. We need to remove that fear. That might be an unknown fear. I'm not sure what it is, but we need, in order for anything to stick, it has to become a national effort. It's not enough. New York State can have the strongest gun control laws, which we do, probably the best in the country.
Sure.
But it doesn't, that's what the whole point of the interstate gun trafficking is. I'll go and buy it in Florida, and then I'll bring it back to New York. So, and Rashid Baz was exactly that man. Whether he bought it to Florida, it was an intermediary, and he bought it on the street of New York. How do we stop that flow?
I talk very often with survivors and those who have been harmed by violence, and I'm always struck by the courage and intensity of the mothers, and it's people like you, I think.
Well, I have to tell you, no matter how long I live on this earth, I will never stop. You know, I miss Ari every single day of my life, from morning till night. Only another parent could appreciate that. It's just something you never come to terms with, and you never get past it. The most you can do is say, if I can help another parent going through what I've been through, saving another child's life is probably, you know, what I'd want to do for the rest of my life.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you for coming by tonight, Deborah.